Most of us, our purpose can be found in the darkest spots of our lives.
Shervin, just want to say thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. I've read up about you and I've seen your experience, and it's amazing to see how you really have transitioned through all types of visual art. And as a filmmaker myself, I love watching other filmmakers who make it in the industry and then also create their own companies to help other people as well. And so, I just really want you to kind of talk about yourself and kind of your background and how you got into filmmaking, and then your story until today.
I've always loved filmmaking. I
Mm,
was glued to the TV screen watching Zorro and Superman and the Incredible Hulk series. Growing up, I would watch the films, write about them, and my mom got me a small camcorder, and I started just
mm,
recording things every day. Until we got to community college with my best friend, we started making some films, and you know one thing led to another, and we started making some commercials locally. In fact, I was working as an editor for events in a tiny little closet for this guy back in Van Nuys, and it was very difficult. He would come in and say, "Okay, I want you to slow it down, use black and white, and have the page flipping transitions." I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
oh, I know what you're talking about.
So it was
Yes.
really just sucking the creative soul out of me until my friend one day called and said, "Look, a friend of a friend called me and he said, do you want to make a commercial?" And so he started
Mm,
with one commercial, which led to another, to a third, and he had his plate full. So he reached out to me and he said, "Do you want to make a commercial? Because I don't have time for them." And of course, that was heaven sent for me. So I made that first commercial, and eventually, about a year down the line, I went to a client who was also meeting with another producer who happened to be my friend, who had referred the work to me a year before,
nice.
and we decided, why not just join forces? And
Mm.
so local commercials became mid-level commercials, which is where we're at.
Wow. No, that's such a great story because I'm in the process right now to get into more of the commercial world as well. And I'm in the world of digital. And so digital content and advertising and social media ads and everything. I'm in the process of actually today I was about to talk to a mentor from the CDDP, Commercial Directors Diversity Program, and the transition between from filmmaking into commercials, it's kind of unknown, so I would love to know from your end, how did you know you wanted to actually transition, stop making films, or do you still keep want to make films, or was commercials kind of like a route that you've always thought about before?
No, at some point, my business partner and I, we both went to film school, and we both, kept working together to make these films that we would pour our passion into. And I remember that moment when we were at a coffee shop and having that argument. And she was saying, "But that's selling out. You want to make commercials? That's going to be, that's not filmmaking." But and to some degree, I agreed with him, because commercial at its rudimentary clinical level is really just a list of features and benefits of a product. This is how it works, and right, it's very sterile. But filmmaking, aside from the lighting and the type of camera that you use and even the actors, it's about storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them, "Look, we can use this medium to tell our stories. We can,
Mm.
because that's been programmed in us as humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dates back to prehistoric paintings in caves. Even Jesus was used just a handful of verses, but mostly he spoke in parables. He told stories,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was, if it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us. So why don't we bring our filmmaking, our passion for storytelling, to the commercial world?"
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes campaigns successful, when they elicit this emotional investment from its viewer.
That's beautiful because I think it's very true. I think actually these days, having a story is very important. And how has your filmmaking influenced the way you create ad campaigns with storytelling?
You know, I think that a lot of people they wait for, in order to reach to connect with others, they kind of wait for them to come to them.
Mm.
But I feel like, with marketing, advertising, we really have to go to others, to our target audience, not only by geography or by age, uh, but really where they are, what their pain points are. And once we get there, then we can then we can have fun. We can
Mm-hmm.
create a storyline around where they are, mystery and conflict and fun,
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we've been trying to use filmmaking as part of the marketing and advertising strategy. So
That's
we
amazing.
go to where they are, and we come up with different scenarios on how to make it filmic.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's almost like creating a mini short film.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and do you also write as well, or are you mostly just directing and producing?
When we started off, we had to wear a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
So we had to write and edit and produce and,
Mm-hmm.
do
Mm-hmm.
everything. And so, yeah, my business partner and I have worn a lot of different hats, which
Yeah.
included writing and editing, doing
No.
After Effects. And
Oh my gosh, you got into After Effects. Oh, now I understand, how you built the company. It's basically the jack of all trades, and you were out there, coming up with a concept, and in your mind, since you're also an editor, you were shooting to edit. And
yeah,
and
isn't that, there's a term for that, right? Predator?
predators, yeah, you're a
Right?
predator. And
Yeah.
because I'm a predator as well, and that's awesome that you say that, because it's a new breed. And I think it's a
Producer and
very,
editor, for those
yeah,
who don't know.
exactly, a producer and editor. And what's awesome about it too is that when I mentioned writing, is because I loved what you said about finding the pain points of your ideal customer, and then in your client's ideal customer, and then creating a story around it. And so what is your process actually when you are, I guess, pitching or writing a proposal for a potential client, or for someone that you've already worked with before and they have a new idea for a new campaign?
Well, I'll give you an example of. I think silence and intentionality is very important. And come getting that creative flow.
Mm,
Life Alert had, for years come up with these commercials that people had started to see as cheesy. I don't know if
hmm.
you're familiar
I
with Life
remember
Alert.
those.
I've fallen and I can't get up, and so
Yes.
people were making fun of that campaign. And so he came to us and he said, you know, do your thing, try to see what you can come up with. So we went to where the target audience would be, which would be elderly, the
Mm,
elderly who generally live alone. So I put myself in the shoes of an elderly. What would this product give you? Access to paramedics, access to help, right? So if
mhm,
you flip that around, what you would get is lack of access. Okay,
mhm.
so you then take that, okay, not having access, and you make it bigger, you amplify it. So what does that look like, not having access to help? And so I thought, oh my goodness, if I, falling in the kitchen, well, let's push it even more. How about in the basement? It's dark and
Mm,
you're all alone in a big house. So what we did was, we started the commercial with, the camera going through this big house, empty house, and as we get closer to whatever is happening, we start hearing someone calling for help, and
hmm.
we then pan over and see this long flight of stairs, and at the very bottom, this this woman has fallen down with a basket of laundry,
Oof.
and she's crying out for help while, the mailman is playing with a golden retriever right outside the window, completely oblivious to what's happening. And it aired, that commercial aired,
Mm,
and people started complaining that this was frightening. It was frightening.
Yeah.
We got on change.org. People were trying to get us off the
No
air.
way.
Yes. TMZ picked up the story and they said,
Wow.
yeah, this, Life Alert is back with a vengeance. Nobody's, no one is, making fun of Life Alert again. And so we called the client and we said, we're so sorry. I mean, we didn't mean to do this. And he said, guys, I'm really busy. You guys have been able to bring down the cost per lead from $130 to $60.
Get out of
People were
here.
calling because it had connected emotionally with them. They're like,
Mm,
I get that now. I get it. Why we would need Life Alert. What if we're alone, So not everybody is going to fall down a flight of stairs, but that's how you will feel if you feel helpless
that's
and
all
have no
right.
contact.
Wow. I'm thinking about Life Alert now. Just thinking about the idea of no access and the imagery. I gotta see this commercial. Please send it to me after this. I would love to see the how you shot it, because even in my mind, the idea of being in a home without anyone there to help you, and really emphasizing that through visuals, that's a great way to raise sales, because people like to buy through fear. I mean, that's why a lot of insurance is getting sold. So I think that that's a beautiful way for you to come up with a campaign. An idea was, what is the main fear, and what how, or in Life Alert, and then how can we turn that around, and also what's the benefit, the feature and benefit, and find a story around there so that people would want that feature, would want that benefit. And it's amazing how you're able to do that creatively, and get TMZ involved, because you know, press is good press. I mean, sometimes when you have enough press, you can get a lot of traffic. And guess what? You helped raise sales for Life Alert. So well done. Um, and when
But
you,
I've got to tell you, you were asking me if I do my own writing. There's something very dangerous about that as well.
hmm,
One of your questions was making that transition between creative and business
yeah,
owner. The thing is that I don't know if those two things can happen at the same time,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's you're creating these babies and then you put on your business hat and you got to get rid of them. You
Hmm.
can do that maybe once or twice, but when you come up with these really cool ideas that you feel are really great, and then the client comes in and says, no, we're not going to do that, then there's a part of you that dies.
Yes.
And so I eventually, what we learned to do is kind of pick the projects where we felt the client was more easygoing and open to out of the box ideas to then do the writing ourselves. Otherwise, we get
Mm,
other people to do the writing. That way, we don't have that emotional connection with the content. So if the
that's
client
right.
says, we're not interested, okay, businessman hat, right? On to
Hmm.
the next.
That's a great mindset to have as a business owner, especially as a creative entrepreneur, because there are a lot of times where the creative entrepreneur will attach their value towards an idea and a project. When that idea or project fails, then you feel like your value isn't as what it used to be before that project failed. We put
Yes.
up so much of our heart and soul into a script, and then either it gets turned down and rejected, or it actually gets made and then the results aren't what you wanted and are actually
Right.
negative. And
Yeah.
then you feel almost not as talented as you were before. You actually feel uh, ashamed,
Yeah.
embarrassed.
Yes.
And I think that's great for you to actually separate yourself from the creative as a business owner, and just to see it as, oh, you know what? That was just a project and a client, and has nothing to do with my value and my worth.
I don't know if I do. That's why I ask other people to come up with ideas. Like
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There was this a prospect who came to us with these supplements. They had different supplements for different things, like insomnia. If you have insomnia, take this supplement; it'll help you out. There was a supplement for if you're feeling groggy. Another one if you're feeling if you have allergies.
Hmm.
So as I was writing this script, I came up with the idea of having Snow White and the seven dwarves, and each one, they're sleepy and sneezy and grumpy. And you know what?
Smart.
I was hearing angels. I thought this was the best idea. And so when we presented it to the client, they're like, no. So, that for about, I didn't write anything for another 5 months.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that feeling, and I know how it is also when you work on an RFP or on a proposal, and you go through all this trouble to find reference videos and mood boards and images and pictures, and then all of a sudden the deal doesn't go through or the pitch doesn't even get read, and you know it's such a disappointing outcome when you have so much time put into a pitch and into a proposal, and it can go nowhere, you know. And that's why I kind of feel like the idea of creativity isn't really, sometimes isn't valued as much in business. And when you do want to create these campaigns and add ideas, you know, how do you get into that flow? You know, how do you get into your creative flow to create these ads?
We just talk, we brainstorm. I
Mm-hmm.
think that my business and I, we just have this method. We sit down and we are giving each other that permission to shoot down the ideas. You know, you have to be completely open to feedback. So, you know, I there was this. I don't remember who said it, but she was talking about the process of creating, and the
Mm-hmm.
very first one was the madman. Let me see if I
Mm-hmm.
can madman judge. Okay, so you start off with the madman. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
just come up with these ideas, brainstorm, right? And you don't judge. You're the
Mm.
madman. That's the phase. And then there's the carpenter, okay, who basically, you know, carves out, you know, what will work and what doesn't. And then there's the judge. Okay, you know what? This is what's going to stay, and this is what works. This doesn't work. And then there's the architect. How are we going to implement this? The mistake that a lot of people make is that they bring the judge, you know, at the same time as madman, and
Mm.
so they kill a lot of the ideas that could be brilliant and, you know, huge successful campaigns. So it's so important to let yourself be creative, and I think that my business partner and I have been our most successful when we have gone through that method of, hey, you know what, you just come up with whatever ideas you have, and I'll just encourage you. Then we go to the next phase of, okay, let's carve out, let's polish those ideas, and then let's cut them down. Let's judge them. So I think
Love
it's
that.
okay to allow yourself to be a madman. You're creative, right? There's no
Mhm.
rhyme and reason.
No, it's so true. I remember just a lot of books I've read about creativity, and the idea of coming up with ideas, and actually also innovation. You have to be free and vulnerable to come up with ideas that might suck. I love the idea. I love the madman. I love the architect, he said, and
Hmm.
then the
Madman, carpenter,
carpenter,
judge, and then
judge,
architect.
architect. That's such a great way to kind of go through the stages, because a lot of the creative books that I've read on creativity and innovation, it all goes down to being vulnerable and being okay with a bad idea. And it's catching the muse. And I talked about this with another guest the other day about being a creative. There is this ethereal uh, fairy or god or spirit of creativity that will
Mm,
bless you with this idea. And
yeah.
people might think that that's crazy, but as a creative, you know what I'm talking about. You can be driving, and that one idea that you were trying to come up with for that one ad campaign could just pop out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it's either you're going to write it down, or you do a voice memo, or you repeat it so much that you're going to say to yourself, remember this idea, remember this idea.
Yes.
And and I had a guest on who was a fine artist, and she says you have to be okay with creating ugly paintings. And an ugly painting is really just an idea that has no expectation. You know, there's just, I want to create something. Now, the whole idea of creation, it's coming up from some nothing to something. And so
Mhm.
being okay that nothing from something may have results that may not be awesome for now, but it may be something that you can use for later. Like, have you ever had an idea that was part of a session that you said, okay, you know what, no one's ever gonna go for that idea or that pitch, that would never work anywhere else, but then you realize someone else or another client down the line loved that idea?
Uh, yeah, I mean, as a joke, we had this. I threw out this idea that the client loved and said, "Run with it." It was this product. called Aerospot pillow, and very innovative pillow that allowed you to kind of sleep face down, but it also had this chamber where you would be able to put in this fan, which would diffuse aromatherapy oils.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it was very relaxing and very, very calming, soothing. And so I said, why don't we create this commercial where there's this girl who comes in and she's just fighting? She's like a Jane Bond type of character. And after, kicking some butt, she says, what my secret is? Right here. You're probably wondering, why I'm always so calm. And so as she is fighting, with these guys who pop out of nowhere, she
Hmm.
actually starts putting their heads inside the pillow, and they start calming down. And she talks
Nice.
about the calming effects of the pillow. We threw that out as a joke, but the client said, "I love it. Do it." And that got a lot more shares than the straightforward direct response commercial that we created for him.
Wow. And that also comes to show sometimes the most outrageous ideas, the ones that you don't even spend time on, will actually be successful. And sometimes when you spend so much time on a project, a video, and that's produced well, directed well, everything went well, and sometimes the result isn't as successful. And I've had that happen with just viral videos. I've had worked with a lot of companies where we thought it was going to be a viral hit, put thousands of dollars into it, even with advertising, and then all of a sudden, mediocre results.
Yeah.
And then same company would do a behind the scenes video with them on set filming something, and something funny happened, like hundreds of thousands of views.
Isn't that
With
amazing?
yeah. And it,
There's almost this thing in the air where people connect, and sometimes
mhm,
they just don't, and there's no way of telling. And
mhm,
so that's
mhm.
why you just keep on creating. You
Yeah,
mentioned, creating out of nothing.
yeah.
It's well, the word comes from Creo.
Mm,
And in the Christian period, it's creatio meant when God creating ex nihilo, which is creating from nothing.
mm,
Nowadays, it's not so much that we create out of nothing, but we take a departure, a significant departure from
mm,
what has become kind of like routine, and everyone, people don't pay attention anymore.
mm,
Advertising is no longer what it used to be, where
mm.
you would see an ad on TV and wow, this is the ad, right? Nowadays, 90% you are bombarded by this constant stream of people trying to sell you
Mhm.
something. Let me give you an interesting example with Instagram. I found myself every time that I would pick up my phone, my thumb would automatically scroll over and click on Instagram even when
Yeah,
I was not interested in opening Instagram. So it
yeah.
became like this natural response to picking up my phone. So what I decided to do was just move my Instagram app to a different location in a different folder. And so
Mhm.
every time that I would pick up my phone, my thumb would automatically go to where Instagram was, and it was no longer there. So it made me
Mm.
pause. That's what's so important about taking a significant departure from what everybody else is doing, because it makes people pause.
Yeah,
And that when they pause and they start thinking about what the message that you're trying to give them, and that is the opportunity you have um, to elicit a different response from them.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nowadays, especially with the feed, that we have so many different types of feeds. We have a TikTok feed now, a LinkedIn feed. We have the emails, we have our text messages, and grabbing attention has never been so hard. But at the same time, loyalty to certain brands. Sometimes if you are able to provide enough value to someone, they'll be a loyal customer. And what's interesting now, like you said, the social media and how people are creating branded content. And you won't see the brand in there, you won't see any products in there, but it's sponsored by a certain brand. And what are your thoughts on that? Like, is it ethical, right? From like for being a storyteller to be saying, to create such a great ad or great video that you're not going to say is an ad, but it's an ad and it's trying to sell something. Like, it's like you say, you have to separate your business mind from your creative mind now. And the power of marketing. Like, do you ever see yourself saying, see other people, like, going through that kind of struggle of, are we going to be, are we trying to manipulate people here with this ad? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, advertising is propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Propaganda has a negative connotation to it, but what it means is propagate, to encourage somebody to do something, right? That's just the nature of the beast. It's
Mm-hmm.
that's what marketing is, and you can. There are different ways of doing it. Either it's here's the product, blah 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 blah, or you create a storyline.
Mm-hmm.
And what the line that we don't cross is we will not advertise things that we do not believe are going to help people,
Mm.
or we will not advertise things that we feel are unethical. And even if people have thrown a lot of money at us, there's a line that we cross.
Mm-hmm.
We are not going, because we have a responsibility. I'll tell you a personal story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we have time, maybe a
Yeah, we
couple
have
of
time. No, we
minutes.
have time. Don't worry about it.
Okay. So I mentioned my three daughters, and the very first baby that we had, right before she was born, everyone was telling us, when you see her, you're going to fall in love. Your knees are going to feel weak, and you're going to cry. Well, the first time that I saw my baby, I didn't feel anything. And so they said, come on over. It's time to cut the umbilical cord. It's a special moment. I cut the umbilical cord, and I didn't feel anything. I'm like, is this normal? They said, this is it. You're going to hold the baby now. I held the baby. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with me? I'm not feeling anything. She's just, covered with goo and everything. I was not really feeling much. But that night, when my wife, who was so tired, she fell asleep, I held, my daughter in my arms. And when I looked at her, I felt like she was, through her eyes, she was communicating to me that I came to this world, not having anything to my name. And
Mm.
I don't know anyone. I've come here on your account. And that's when I felt all of these emotions, that I am the steward. I'm supposed to be this host. So
Mhm,
as people
mhm.
in the media, we have a responsibility to make, I know it sounds cliche, but really to make the world a better place, an easier place for the people, not only around us, but to send ripples of change, positive change, because
Wow.
you have the power to do that. Being create a predator,
Yeah.
you have the power to make a change.
It's
And
so
so,
true. And especially like you said about, with social media and everything, because it does, we are touching a lot of youth right now. A lot of youth are on their screens. And thank you for that story, by the way, because it's such a touching story, because it's because of that you are able to, pick and choose the clients and the message that you want to put out there, so it doesn't influence your daughter and her friends and future generations in a negative way. And if your daughter ever wanted to go in the same route as you, how would you like tell her, and actually in general, why creativity is important, not to even to society, to business, but in general, as a creative yourself. I think that we always struggle with, why didn't you become a doctor or an engineer or an accountant? And for us, it's we realized, yes, creativity doesn't have this tangible product that can come out, or like you can say, okay, creativity can be quantifiable, unless it's like marketing numbers and ticket sales. But when you are trying to explain to a business, or even to your daughter, how creativity is important for business and society, what would you say?
creativity is comes from creator, and as human beings, we are creators,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that it's really important to look back at our own pain points. And interestingly, I think that for most people, it happened during their adolescent years.
Mm-hmm.
And we just leave it on the shelf to gather dust. We're like, nothing good can come out of that. But I really believe that for most of us, our purpose can be found in the darkest spots of our lives. And most of us want to be seen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. When um, I was going through my adolescence, I did not feel seen until a teacher in middle school was able to pinpoint some of the talents that she saw in me. And because she saw those talents in me, then I was able to realize, oh wow, this is who I am. And so, as creative people, we are. It's our duty to help people. You know.
Mm,
Uh, Fix those pain points, to feel seen,
hmm.
and to see themselves in a world that makes more sense.
Wow, I love that. Wow, Sherman, thank you so much. I really do appreciate, our conversation and talking creative with you. And, before we go, I'd love to know what your advice would be to filmmakers or just creatives in general who do want to start their own company or even just get into advertising. To tell you the truth, like I know that filmmakers, like you said, like to think about storytelling and cinema as the pure medium for telling stories through video and film. What would you tell them about commercials, and what advice would you give to those filmmakers who do want to get into commercials? Actually,
Well, look, you need to be a salesman. Okay. If you're not a salesman, it's very difficult, to sell your own creativity, your ideas. On one hand, it comes off as if you're full of yourself, and it's just difficult. So, but you have to be a salesman if you want to, turn a business out of it. If you're not, then get a partner who is a salesman, a go-getter.
mm,
Otherwise, what you'll end up doing if you have two creatives on the team, then you'll just end up having coffee at coffee shops every day of the of the week, wondering why your amazing ideas are not going anywhere or making money. Second, be consistent.
mm,
It's not always that you're going to be successful. Out of 10 failures, maybe one uh, project is going to be super successful. The way we see it is not going fishing for trout in the river where everybody else is, but we are in a small boat trying to catch a huge whale. That's really the way it is with our creative industry. And be consistent. Set set Go fishing, because you're
hmm,
not going to catch fish without going fishing,
hmm,
right? And there are two types of fishing. One is actively going out, throwing the bait, and sitting and waiting, and it's a numbers game. The second way is more passive. You set up little traps in the river, and
mm,
you sit back. That's advertising your business. That's AdWords. That's SEO, and the clients start coming to you. And it really takes a team. Don't be afraid to find people who are better than you to join your team. Seek out people who are better than you at selling. Seek out people who are better than you at filmmaking and being creative. Yeah, it's not
mm.
scary. It's okay, because you are just making your team better. And um, just change your attitude toward failure. Walt Disney's studio, I think, failed. Laughogram, it failed miserably. He lost
Mm.
everything he had, but he started again. And look at his company now. It is one of the biggest companies.
Yeah.
And
Well, keep
right?
going, keep going. Yeah, yeah. No, sure. That was like five great points for anyone who actually wants to start a business and for creative people who want to actually go into entrepreneurship, because it really is about the team and hiring people who are better than you, also being consistent and really know how to sell. And it's funny because the irony between, our kind of businesses is that we tell people how to sell their products, and
Yeah.
yet we also have to sell our product to those people. And so it's like trying to become our own client, and that
Yes.
whole change and that reflection, it's hard sometimes because you have to deal with those hard questions of like, who are you, what are you trying to accomplish, what are your customers pain points, and it becomes this whole pitch process with yourself. But thank you so much, Shervin. This has been such a delightful, conversation. Just because, as a creative and a filmmaker with my own company, it's rare that I can talk to people about creative and business and advertising and marketing at the same time. So, thank you so much. And before we go, can you let the people know how to find you online and where can we support?
Thank you so much. You can go to godrtv.com. That's my company. And you can find me on Instagram, Shervin Youssefian. Shervin. And I just want to encourage all of you to keep going. This is an amazing industry, very fun. You get to work with a lot of different people. And Mitchell, thank you so much for having me on. God bless you, and
Yeah,
wish you all the success.
same to you. All right, bye, Shervin. Get back to your daughters.
Yep, I think one of them is calling me now.
Yeah, take care. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Haven podcast. And if you dig it and like what you heard today, please give us a nice review and rating and share it with one of your friends that you think needs some creative inspiration. You can always find more content and resources at thecreativehaven.com and hit me up on Instagram at Mitchell Doomlau. And if you want to reach out, collab, or ask any questions, you have my permission to slide into my DMs. So keep positive, continue to learn and hone your craft, and create all day. Salamat.